Hello users, and welcome back to Path of the Exiles, the series where I drink alcohol and play an MMO by myself, because that's the kind of person that I am. Also, it appears my portal expired. That's unfortunate, but oh well. The music right now, this is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Crystal Drops. That is the song currently playing. Very mellow, very nice. Game is not functioning in any capacity whatsoever, but that's okay. So this video, I want to drink alcohol. Thank you. But I want to expand upon a point I made in the previous video. Obviously, real quick, if you are watching this video, I would recommend starting on episode 61 of this series, because that was the start of the Harvest League. You know, every 4 or so months this game updates, and they release, you know, a new version of the game, essentially. So I do the series where I play through it. And Harvest League is the 3rd league that I've done a video series on. So think of it as like Season 3 of Path of the Exiles. And I love this part. I would start on episode 61 because just there's a lot to unearth here. This is like a general kind of like introductory, long-form podcast kind of thing. I forgot how good this fucking song is. I gotta replay Castlevania Soten. I really do. But I would like to expand upon a point I made in the previous video, and that it's okay to be poor. That's what I want to talk about. I spent years and years and years of my life being embarrassed that I was poor. So much so that I hid it from... I lived with my mother. Single mother situation. I would visit my father every other weekend, that kind of situation. But there were a lot of moments where my mother just could not raise me. She just didn't have the resources. And we would go weeks without eating. And she always told me that you should never ask for help. She always taught me that if you ask for help, people are going to know that you're weak. And so I was raised to believe that being poor is something to be embarrassed of as a kid. You know, like, it's not like I can go get a job. It's not like I'm 15 years old and I'm losing my house. And it's like, what is it? What are the options that I'm supposed to take upon? And so one of the major things that propels me to doing what I do is the idea that it's okay to be poor. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Not only is it okay, but it's normal. Most people are poor. Most people don't have a lot of money. And one of the things that I learned was that media, television, the shows that we watch on TV, the people that we like, they're all rich. Television programs are produced by rich people. And like that kind of gives you like the standard of living, where it's like, oh, that's what normal people are like. Normal people live in these like elaborate, you know, houses that have about 2 parents and like a brother and a sister. And I was an only child. I have a half-brother on my dad's side that I now currently live with, but for all of my childhood, I did not, you know, have much of an in-depth relationship with him. And that's something I'm extremely grateful that I can foster now. But one of the things, again, is that, like, I was always trained. I was told by my mother, and I lived with my mother 90% of the time, and she was the only other person I talked to in any capacity up until I discovered the internet when I was around 12 or 13. I got an Xbox when I was 12 and played Halo online, and that was like my first actual interaction with people. I never had friends in school. I went to a small elementary school, and, you know, by kindergarten, first grade, no one liked me. I had no friends, and it was the same class every year. So my first grade classmates were the same as my second, same as my third, same as my fourth, same as my fifth, etc. And so I had no friends. And so the only person in my life that I, learned from or talked to was my mother, for the most part. And my mother just poisoned my brain with these ideas that being poor is bad. Also, I was going backwards, apparently. That's bizarre. And it's just like the idea, and I don't blame her. I don't, I have a lot of problems with the way that my mother raised me. And I wish I had an opportunity to talk about those problems with her now that I've fully realized a lot of the issues. But unfortunately, that's not possible. So, here I am talking about it in a YouTube video instead. Let me drink some more alcohol. I'm getting there. But yeah, I mean, I was raised to think being poor is bad. If you're poor, that means there's something wrong with you. That means there's something wrong with your parents. That's embarrassing. Another thing, that when I was a kid, I had a lot of health problems. And I was out of school a lot. And as a result, that's one of the main reasons why I never had friends in school, is because people thought I was the weird, sick kid. And it really wasn't until I was 12 that, I got an Xbox for Christmas that year, and I was like, oh, my mom let me get the cheapest internet upgrade for our phone line. I had the phone connection, literally a phone connection, dial-up or whatever, in like the year 2009 or 2008. It was like $20 a month, some cringe, and it was really slow, and it cut out all the time, but it gave me the ability to meet people online. And those were like the first friends that I made, and they were toxic, moronic, awful gamers. But I mean, that was the only interaction I had with people. But like, these people were not poor like me. They were middle class, maybe lower middle class, maybe upper middle class, but they weren't poor. They weren't people that would, I would tell people in my Halo clan, as cringy as that sounds, but I would tell people in my Halo clan, like, oh yeah, I was swamped with schoolwork, when in reality, we couldn't pay the electric bill, so we just had to wait 4 or 5 days, in order to get it reactivated, and we just had no electricity for days at a time. But I couldn't say that. I couldn't tell other people that. I couldn't, because that was embarrassing. Being poor is bad. People would laugh at me, I thought. That's what my mom taught me. And again, that's like the main message that I want to send to the world, is that it is okay to be poor. If there's like a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old or whatever watching me right now, and they're in the same situation that I was in, they've got a parent that's raising them incorrectly, something like that, I want them to know that being poor is okay. Plain and simple. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, again, it's normal. Being poor isn't normal. That is the default. That is the default. Not to be confused with the Django song. But most people are poor. But it was one of those things where it's like, I had the privilege of not being so poor at this point in my life that I didn't have access to the internet. And my mother basically, up until like I was 12, I was relatively lower middle class. Like I had a single mother, but she fed me, like I say this a lot, my mother fed me ice cream and fast food. That was my diet as a child. Ice cream and fast food. She would barely ever cook meals for me, and I get it. That's not something I can criticize. The you know, she worked a lot, so. But, you know, it was around when I was 13 that my mother's life kind of fell apart. She had a lot of mental health issues. A lot of the same ones that I have. Which is wild. Let me shine a little light on me so I'm not completely in the dark here on the webcam. So my mom never felt able to talk to me, and then she had no friends. You know, like when I was like 5 or 6, I remember my mother having friends, but by the time I was like 12 or 13, she had basically completely socially isolated herself. And me as well, as a result. I had no friends in school. You know, I had a few people I would play Halo with, but, you know, I didn't have any deep connections with them because, you know, I felt embarrassed of being poor. And so I could never get to that level of being able to, like, say that, yeah, these are my close friends. These are people that make me comfortable. You know, I could never get there. And it was around when I was 12 and 13 that my mother just had, like, mental breakdown after mental breakdown. And then she got a series of unlucky, and it wasn't her fault. You know, her beating me and being an abusive person, that's her fault. But the economic situation that we were in was not. The economy went to shit. You know? My mother had a lot of stuff that she had to pay. She couldn't make enough money to pay for it. I remember, like, she would let some things lapse and then just hope for the best. And the best did not come. She had a lot of, like, you know, just a lot of problems. And I don't know the full extent of them because she's not with me anymore. She's gone, so it's not like she can scoop me, you know. And that, like, now that I'm a functioning adult, it's not like we can have this conversation. So I can only go off of, like, the little bit that I know and what I've learned since then. But that ultimately culminated in her losing her car. And then she couldn't go to work anymore because her work was 25, 30 minutes away. So we lost the car. And then I remember her crying. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to tell my boss I'm sick. I can't tell my boss I'm poor and I don't have a car because that's embarrassing. So she would tell her boss that she was sick or something. I don't know. I can only speculate for the most part here, but... And then, you know, she lost her job. And then we lost the house. And that's like a series of events I just didn't understand. And it was like, you know, it took like 2 years or so for that to happen. There was a solid year or so where my mom had no job. She stayed home. We just wouldn't talk all day. She was embarrassed to talk to me. She felt like she was a failed parent. I was like 15, 16. And we were just coasting until, like, eventually the bank repossessed our home. And that was life. I lived life. Like, every now and then I would get people knocking on the door and saying, like, we have to leave. And then my mother would plead with them and get an extension. And I remember, like, being a teenager, and it's like, every time the door would knock, my mom would have a panic attack. She would be horrified that people were coming to get her. That, you know, it was finally the day. And, you know, it lasted a while, and she never told me anything. It was like, there was like a year period, 2 years total, where, like, you know, she lost the car, she lost her job, and then there was like a year after that where she would keep getting extensions on payments and, like, use savings to pay off minimum balances and that kind of stuff. And then I eventually found out she was asking her family for money. And it's like, and the whole time she would tell me, and so you can't tell anyone this. Don't tell anyone at school that you're poor. Don't tell anyone at school that you need help. Don't tell your father that you need help. Don't tell your half-brother that you need help. My brother's younger than me, so, like, when I was 15, he was, like, 12. So, but, you know, like, just don't tell anyone was what I was taught, what I was programmed to think. And that completely shattered my life. like, being a trans person, there's already, like, the first X amount of years of my life basically don't exist. You know, like, there's already that angle to it. Where it's like... Huh? I fucked something up. But where it's like, you know... You know what I'm trying to say. I hope. Maybe you don't. I know, I don't think there's that many fucking trans people that watch me, but... compared to the sissies out there, you fucking sis... I'm sorry, I love sissy. But no, but seriously, like, you know, there's that element of me that it's like, you know, anything before X period of my life basically never happened. Like, there, you know, I was a fucking man for 20 years. Like, what? You know, like, looking at me now, like, if you've just come onto my channel, you know, like, but it's like, I was an obese, disgusting male for 20 fucking years of my life. And so that's compounding on the idea that I don't remember my childhood. Like, really? I don't remember my childhood, like, at all. And, like, every now and then I remember bits of my childhood and it's, like, traumatic for me. I think it's like a PTSD symptom where... when a lot of really bad stuff happens, like, again, on top of me being a trans person, but, like, when a lot of really bad stuff happens, like, your brain wants to forget it for self-preservation. And I think that's one of the things that, like, I had a very traumatic childhood. My mom was pretty abusive. Sorry, Mom. You know, oops, right? She did not raise me in any profoundly important way. My childhood was terrible. Like, from age 10 to 20. You know? Ages 10 to 20 were like a hellscape. Like, I remember being a younger kid. And it was like, this is, you know, my mom was relatively stable, and I got Yu-Gi-Oh cards every time I wanted to. Every time we went to the gas station, I would get a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And that was cool. And then every time it was like, you know, Easter present, I would get a birthday present, I would get Christmas present, I would get... My mom even got me 4th of July presents. Like, she liked buying me stuff. Like, through the first 10 years of my life. Christmas was always a huge thing for us. Those are some of, like... The alcohol's trying to hit me. But those are some of, like, the only good childhood memories I have. Look at this big fuck. And you know, it sucks. I'm trying not to cry right now. Just saying. I'm the second video of the night. I'm already crying. Holy shit. The next fucking 5 videos are gonna be incredible. Anyway, but yeah, like, again, the main message for this whole experience is that it's okay to be poor. I don't know, like, it's as simple as I can make it. Whew. I didn't know I was gonna get this emotional here. I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. Hopefully you appreciate this stuff. But yeah, there's so many people out there, like kids, dude. They're like single children with like a single mother, you know, and it's just like, wow. That shit fucked me up, man. Jesus. I don't know, like there's a part of me that thinks, like, in this, you know, like, I wish, this is why I'm, you know, I advocate for all these things. Like, universal child care is a huge thing for single parents. I remember my mom, like, scrambling. I remember there was this one period where I was like 12, 11, where my mom's life started falling apart, but it wasn't quite there yet, where she made friends with someone at work and then would organize play dates with her coworkers and her coworkers' kids and me, just as a way to babysit me without having to pay for it. That was like one of my mom's scams, was that she would get coworkers, you know, I would go over their house and I would play with a random kid. We'd like play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards or play a video game, and maybe this happened like 3 or 4 times, and like the kid was maybe like 5 years younger or older than me, so it was super awkward and we couldn't like really connect at all. But hey, free childcare! And it's like, again, there's this just like the fucking society that we live in. It's just, God, it's so bad. It's really fucking bad. I don't know. Jesus Christ, this is one hell of a YouTube video. Again, it's only 8:40. It's only 8:40 p.m. right now, and I plan on at least playing video games until midnight. So this is gonna... I'm already crying. I'm already at the stage where I drink so much alcohol that I'm in tears. And it's only 8:40. Like, wowee, I can't wait. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of shit. I constantly, like, am awake at night, even, like, as of, like, oh, you know, this week. Just thinking about these events in my memory that I try to analyze with a new knowledge set. You know, it's like, oh, I kind of understand how some of this works now. So let me analyze, you know, a very faded memory that I've got from when I was like 15 and see if I can make sense of it. And man, dude, like there's so much, especially in my situation, but I'm sure for other people's situations, where there's so much where they don't understand anything as a kid. And then, you know, like, you know, once you start understanding the world, you unravel what you experienced before. And that's something that, like, again, it's been weird for me to go through that, you know? To fully try to figure out why I was raised in the way that I was. Why I, you know, experienced the things that I did. You know, like, I had medical problems all throughout my childhood that culminated in me getting a surgery, and this is one of the big things that added financial stress to my mother, is that the health insurance she had from her job wouldn't pay for some of the surgeries I needed, like life-saving surgeries. And she was, you know, not legally intelligent enough to fight any of that, so she just took it. She took the bills and then couldn't pay them, and then as a result, everything went to shit. And it's like, the healthcare industry ruined my life. It ruined my life for no reason. No reason. No, because a health insurance death panel said that my life-saving surgery wasn't, you know, oh, it wasn't life-saving enough, and therefore we're gonna slap your family with hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical debt, and that fucked me. And again, my life at that point, like when I was 12, I had a surgery when I was 14. That's when that happened. And then when I was 14, that's when everything went to complete garbage. Like after that, that's when everything went to shit. But it's like the first 12 to 13 years of my life were like pretty decent trajectory. You know what I mean? Like lower middle class, but you know, I just wonder what life would have been like if none of these major events in my life happened. Like if my mom was just an abusive, shitty single parent that raised me poorly, but we didn't lose our house. Or I wasn't, you know, a kid with chronic illness and was in the hospital all the time. You know, if those like were just factors that I didn't have to deal with, I wonder where I would be. And there's no way to know that. There's no way to know that. None whatsoever. And so that's like one of the things where it's like, I, at some point in my lifetime, would love to see a society where no child is put in the situation that I was put in. You know what I mean? Like, that's the goal. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. It's basically over now. I didn't cry. I shed a few tears, but I wiped them away. Hopefully no one noticed. But, you know, this is what happens when you drink alcohol. And then talk about your fucking traumatic, abusive childhood, I guess. It's a twofer. But I don't know. Oops, I completely fucked up something. The song. But anyway, hopefully you learned something about me. Hopefully you learned. Maybe you picked up some sort of, you know, maybe you're a parent or you're, you know, something. I don't know. There's old people that watch my videos. There's parents that watch. Be nice to your children. Don't abuse them. Teach them that it's okay to be poor. That's like a huge thing. Just, it's okay. Again, not only is it okay, but it's normal. That's like the thesis here, is that not only is it okay, but it's normal. It's something that normal people normally experience normally. And it is not something to be ashamed of. Because that shame is what keeps us from, you know, working together. That shame is what keeps us from meeting each other. That shame is what keeps us socially isolated. The idea that we don't belong, when in reality, everyone thinks they don't belong. That's what everyone thinks. How is it that everyone thinks they don't belong? How is it that we have the internet, yet we're the most socially isolated fucking period of human history, but we can talk to people in China in a fucking, in seconds? I could say something and then someone from China could respond. How is it that we're so atomized? And it's because people don't know that it's okay to be poor. It's because people are brought up in such a way that they are afraid to talk about the things that affect them. And my internet's shutting out. Amazing. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it was as much of a roller coaster as it was for me, for you. And I'll see you later.